Hey, Manny.
Okay, I'm going to start now, babe. We're giving a talk on healthy weight loss today, and it's been quite interesting as I've read through all the stuff. It's everything I've always believed, and they're finally coming up with information that's correlated with the medical industry and all of the different health professions. And one of the things they're not talking about a lot, but it's really becoming a problem with the obesity problem, is pollution, the introduction of contaminants into the natural environment, which causes adverse change. Pollution can take the form of chemical substances, energy, noise, heat, light, and pollution can be foreign substances such as poisons, herbicides, pesticides, or energies that cause problems like radiation and EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. Now, this is a nice slide. It shows what's causing weight gain. We got air pollution. We have particulate matter causing problems with nerves and volatile compounds causing increased cancer risk, nausea, skin irritations, cardiovascular illness, respiratory illnesses. We've got water pollution with bacteria, parasites, and chemicals. And this is the CDC's slide, parasites. Isn't that interesting? It's causing weight gain, pollutants with parasites in the water. Soil contamination, pesticides, and they were talking about parasites on there. So kind of an interesting slide, and I really appreciate it. This is a picture of a factory in and close to the Forbidden City. The Chinese consider these places, very sacred, and they allowed a bunch of industry to be built around it, and they're constantly having to clean pollutants off the buildings and structures, and it's ruining everything in the Forbidden City. And the amount of pollutants, as you can see, that's really dark. Here in the United States, the EPA, thank goodness, had rules that we can't let all these particulates out. So we have a lot of filters that go on all of the flues and chimneys and different things that release. But China doesn't have these laws. So they're just releasing crap and it's floating over the United States. Now this, I don't know why this slide is not showing up, but it shows that over the years we've increased our obesity and diagnosed cases of diabetes. And currently, diabetes and weight gain, it shows that in the United States now we're averaging between 30 to 35% obesity, and there's about 15% of the population that is morbidly obese, which means they're more than double the body weight they should be, and some are triple and quadruple. So kind of a big problem, and diabetes occurs in all of these people. 30 to 35%. So a third of our population is being affected. This shows a percentage of the population with diagnosed diabetes, and most of the ones with type 2 diabetics are basically obese. Now, complications of not diabetes, but obesity. Complications of obesity are very similar to the complications of diabetes. Increased risk of heart disease and stroke, high blood pressure, cancer. Cancer is one of the hugest complications of obesity, and kidney disease, neuropathy, and amputations. Now, obesity and colon cancer. How many here have heard of leptin receptors? Okay, they're in the brain, but they're also in the gut. And these leptin receptors regulate satiety. What does satiety mean? it means feeling full and nourished, and basically keeps you from eating more and more and more. And when you don't have adequate leptin receptors, you tend to overeat because you don't have that receptor site saying, oh, I'm full. Because when I got my leptin receptors improved and reset, I would eat a certain amount, and I was like, I just cut way back on the amounts I was eating because I felt full. And it's helped me lose weight and keep my weight down. Now, the receptor sites, when you are when they are having problems either through pollutants or overeating or too many sugars or fungus, because fungus can cause a problem with the leptin receptors, they found that there's a direct link between that and cancer. So if you're overweight, have obesity, it increases your risk for cancer, and there's several studies talking about this. There was actually about 25. I only listed the first two in Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine. Overweight and obesity related health problems in adult. As your body mass index rises, so does your risk for coronary heart disease. Now, coronary heart disease is a condition which a waxy substance called plaque builds up inside the coronary arteries. These arteries supply oxygen to the heart, and when these get full and get blocked, you can have a heart attack. Obesity also makes your body have to pump more blood to more parts of your body, causing an increase in heart failure, believe it or not. So these people with big bodies, their heart just can't keep up with all of the blood flow they have to push through the body. And so basically the heart starts failing, and you can have a heart attack. And when you get heart failure, you get swelling in your extremities. You get decreased ability to get around, because literally your wood legs end up being so heavy you can't hardly move because of all the swelling and stuff. So it's a big problem here in the United States. You'll see these people who are so big and they really can't. You'll see them walking like this because they can't bend their knees, because the obesity has made so much swelling around their knees they can't move their knees. It also causes increase in knee replacements and hip replacements. And the people who are obese, they're more likely to have complications from all these surgeries, and yet, the orthopedic surgeons are recommending, instead of losing weight, they replace their knees or hips and all kinds of stuff. Now, the other thing they found with this is it causes an increase in osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis was thought to be, a problem with older people. But now younger and younger people are getting it because of the overweight problem. And they're being diagnosed with osteoarthritis, which means arthritis of the joints. Now, stroke, being overweight or obese can lead to a buildup of plaque in your arteries, just like we were talking about. And it can cause literally hardening of the arteries, and these arteries can burst because it's an increase of high blood pressure too. And if the clot is close to our brain, it can block the flow of blood and oxygen to the brain, causing a stroke. The risk of having a stroke increases as the basal metabolic index increases, BMI. And they used to measure obesity in the percentage of fat, but now they measure it in body mass index. So type 2 diabetes is the diabetes when the body's blood glucose or blood sugar level is too high. Normally the body breaks down food into glucose and carries it to the cells throughout the body, and the hormone that helps this is insulin, helps get the blood sugars into the cells to be used as energy. And in type 2 diabetes, the receptor sites get full and the insulin doesn't work as well, and so you have all this sugar flowing through your system, and it raises the amount of osmolality to your blood. And in order to live, we have to keep it at a certain osmolality, which means not too many molecules. When there's too much sugar, there's too many molecules, and so our kidneys have to clear this, so you'll get glucose in the urine. Now, what does this have to do with obesity? They found people with obesity that the receptor sites don't work very well. There's chemical toxins in all the tissues, and so all of the cells are toxic. The receptor sites for the insulin don't work very well, and so it increases the risk of stroke, heart disease, and high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. Now, when they give these people medications, pharmaceuticals for the type 2 diabetes, most of them cause, as a side effect, believe it or not, higher blood pressure. So these people end up not only being on diabetic medications, but high blood pressure medications. The other side effect with the type 2 diabetic medications is it can cause increased workload on the heart and decreased oxygenation in the body. So, you know, that's a setup for heart attacks. And so the medications aren't necessarily helping them except keeping the sugars down, and it's actually pushing the pancreas. And they're finding more and more people are getting pancreatitis. I just got back from a trip to Fairfield, Iowa, and had a lecture there, and about 80 people showed up. 20% of them were having problems with their pancreas. Why was that occurring? Well, when I tuned into it, they just built a huge grain silo for corn there in Fairfield, Iowa, and they're using Roundup ready corn, but then they're overdosing the corn to desiccate it, which means they're actually using it at such high levels that it makes the corn die and dry out so they can harvest it easier. Now, to me, this is ridiculously crazy because they found that Roundup causes pancreatitis in people. Now, you don't hear this commonly because they don't want you to know, but they've actually found recently there's a correlation between exposure to Roundup and pancreatitis. So now that they're using these even higher levels of Roundup, it's causing even more toxicity. And in the town of Fairfield, when they harvest the grain, they're loading it into these high silos, and this dust of Roundup comes off from the corn and goes through the air. The people breathe it in, and it's causing pancreatitis. Isn't that incredible? And they're doing that right here in our little sweet city of St. George. You know, Monsanto's going around teaching people, the farmers, oh, use it and then you can get an extra crop in because you can harvest quicker and get another crop in before it gets cold. And what they're finding is they're using more and more pounds of Roundup, and it's just causing more and more toxicity in the soil and everything, but they're suppressing all of these studies so that the general public doesn't understand this stuff. Okay, so abnormal blood fats. Guess who's probably really glad that everybody's getting fat? Pfizer. Lipitor is the most prescribed drug on the market, has made more money for Pfizer than any other drug. Guess what it's used for? Lowering blood fats. And the amount of obesity has increased cholesterol, it's increased lipids, and so what do? You go to your doctor and they put you on Lipitor or one of these cholesterol lowering medications. Now, one of the things they found is all of the statins cause problems with the muscle tissue and makes it so it's not as strong. Well, guess what's one of the most important muscles in your body? Your heart. So they're giving you a drug that makes your heart weaker, and making your heart weaker can cause stroke and heart attacks. So it's crazy how they're doing this kind of stuff. Now, metabolic syndrome. How many of you have heard of metabolic syndrome? Metabolic syndrome is basically you have a larger waistline, instead of being 32 or 34, you're maybe a 36, 38, 40, and going on up. And they found that the extra fat here around your waistline actually is an indicator of your risk for heart disease, cancer, stroke, all of the above things that we've been talking about. And even though you may not appear real fat, if you've got this fat around your waist, it's a sign that you're going to have all these diseases. Now, I have a lady in Fairfield, Iowa that I helped lose weight with the HCG program. You heard about the big thing with HCG, and the HCG had a lot of benefits. It helped people go into a ketosis and burn the fats off. It reset the leptin receptors so that you cleaned up your leptin receptors and reset them at a good level. But the thing they found, once you went off the HCG, you kept eating and doing the things that you wanted to do, and so everybody's been gaining their weight back. And a lot of them mainly gained the weight around their waistline. And this lady was precisely that fact. And she said to me, Scott, the HCG was great, it helped me lose weight, but now I've got this body fat here, and the spirit's telling me the HCG isn't going to be the answer. And in a lot of people, it's not, because they've already been through that, and they start taking the HCG and they get kind of sick. And why is that? Well, what I've found, it's due to toxins in the body. The chemicals, the pesticides, herbicides, the different pollutants that we've been talking about, in the air, the water pollution, parasites, fungus, bacteria, all of these things contribute to this waste, and I call it waste products. It's literally pollutants. And these people can't get these waste products out of the body. So about 4 years ago, Systemic Formulas developed a detoxification program to pull pollutants out of the body. And I said to the lady in Fairfield, I said, well, you could go on the detoxification program, because that will help get rid of the pollutants, help get rid of the fat here in the middle, on your waistline. And you know what she said to me? I'm not going to do that. That's too many pills. I tried it once and I just can't do it. And it's expensive, And she said that she's very intuitive, and she said to me, Scott, you know what to do. You've just got to find what the problem is. And right then when she said that, I got really strong that I can make a detox program out of homeopathics and make it in a similar fashion that the manufacturers made, and put it in phases that will help the people naturally get rid of these toxins instead of having them recirculate and go right back into fat. Because that's one of the problems is with the HCG, it didn't get rid of the toxins. And we need to get rid of the toxins in order to keep the fat off. So what came to me was a 90-day detox, but use it with homeopathics, with remedies that are similar to the ones found in the other companies' detox formulations, but use homeopathics because they're less expensive, they work just as good, and they have no bad side effects at all. And you're not sitting there having to take 12 pills at a time 4 times a day. So, and when I was thinking about this, I went to bed, and it was fascinating because I had an experience with Saint Germain in my dreams where he came to me and said, "Scott, this is exactly what